I think there's going to be good news on the health front in terms of getting ahead of this curve, again, pushing down the deaths. We're already seeing a pretty dramatic drop in additional hospitalizations and infections in much of the world. And I just feel pretty good about this week. Last week was kind of a rugged week. We're all going through a very tough time. I do my best to be mindful of the pain and the loneliness and the despair and the anxiety that so many millions of Americans are facing. Hey, in many cases, younger people have never been, well, heck, younger. I don't think any of us could ever have anticipated what it would be like to see our entire country, indeed most of the planet, shut down like this. It's a very difficult time. Just got the nicest text message on the My Pillow text line, which talked about My Pillow. I just like it when nice little warm fuzzy things emerge, like this text. Mike, this is a very hard time for a lot of us. I thank God for My Pillow. At least I'm getting a good night's sleep, and I can try to forget the tough times we have ahead. Thank you, Rich. That's kind of you. A lot of people are supporting My Pillow, especially after the way they tried to crucify Mike Lindell for speaking at the Rose Garden a couple of weeks ago in announcing that My Pillow is devoting 75% of their factory space to making face masks for hospital workers. Got a lot to cover today, a lot to break down this hour. Which states are ready for phase one? I got a text message from a friend in New York City who just said, "Holy cow, the Starbucks on the Upper West Side just reopened today. Big day." And my friend who kind of relies on me for some of the information coming out of our nation's capital and New York and around the country asked me, are places starting to open up? Well, yes, there are places that are slowly but surely trying. This is a very difficult, delicate balance. There's just no doubt that we've got this fine line between, this reopening the economy and continuing to stay ahead of the curve, and of course, and flatten it. It also dawns on me that you either believe in the severity of COVID-19 or you don't. I truly know that there are people who just don't buy it. You don't think it's that bad. You think it's the flu. You think if we'd have just kept the country open, we'd have been all right. I just respectfully disagree with you, and I respectfully agree with President Trump and the coronavirus task force and some of the best and brightest health and economic minds who have said the reason it may be just about 60,000 deaths, which is horrible for those 60,000 people and their families. I'm not trying to minimize it, but if you haven't heard this model that they keep looking at out of Washington State, they keep taking that number down to now it looks like the total fatalities from COVID may be a little over 60,000 people. And of course, I almost hate to say this because people will say, aha, it's just the flu. This isn't just the flu. It's not. But it bears repeating that if we get out of this with 60,000 deaths, that's a bad flu season. That's like a year of a bad flu. Now, the reason you can't go apples to apples is because we've never shut the country down for flu. And many believe we should not shut the country down over flu. I get the protests. I get the argument. If you're going to protest, incidentally, and a lot of good and decent people are doing so, just do it responsibly. Follow the president's guidelines on being in public. Don't gather publicly shoulder to shoulder. Stay 6 feet away from people. Wear a mask or gloves to try to give yourself and others around you a layer of protection. You don't need to flaunt the president's guidelines and say you're just going to ignore it all because you have an understandable concern about the way our civil liberties have been eroded, and they have been. I'm not going to pretend or be happy or satisfied with the erosion of civil liberties that we've witnessed in America. I get it. I'm with you. I understand it. All I'm asking is for you to be safe, is for you to be careful, is for you to be responsible. I truly don't understand. Well, if we'd have kept the country open, we would still only have 60,000 deaths. You have no way of knowing that. We're never going to know. Don't waste your breath on a position that you will never know the answer to, because we won't. Every country has virtually every country in America. I think Sweden and maybe, I don't know, Denmark. There's like two Scandinavian countries that haven't exercised the dramatic, draconian, severe restrictions that we've seen around the world. And the belief from the scientists and the medical experts is that this is working. This is the way that this will wash through the country. This is the world. This is a worldwide thing. Yesterday and over the weekend, the president holding press conferences, the coronavirus task force. Here's what he said about testing. People keep talking about testing, testing, testing. Here's what he said.
America continues to make steady progress in our war against the virus. As of today, we've tested 4.18 million Americans. That's a record anywhere in the world.
And he also talked a little bit about the nonpartisan nature of this virus, something that I've been saying over and over again.
You know, this is not about Democrats, Republicans. This is about a thing that hit our country, the likes of which has never happened to us before.
The Governor Cuomo talked about hospitalizations, and this is important as well because this is the thing that they're keeping their eye on: the additional hospitalizations, the additional deaths. Here's what the governor of New York said over the weekend about total hospitalizations in the hard-hit New York area.
The total hospitalization rate is down again in the state of New York. We're down to 16,000. If you look at the numbers, we're at 18,000 people hospitalized for a period of time. It flattened there for a while. It paused there. Then it went down to 17,000, but this is a low from our high point of 16,000. Big question of whether we've been past the apex, past the high point. And it turned out the high point wasn't a point, but the high point was a plateau. And we got up to a high point, and then we just stayed at that level for a while. But if the data holds, and if this trend holds, we are past the high point, and all indications at this point are that we are on a descent.
That's good news, and I think we're going to see a good news week. I think we're also going to see a lot more businesses finally start getting this desperately needed economic recovery money because the Democrats, I believe, are being shamed into finally ending the foot dragging and the obstructing of just replenishing the payroll protection program. We're in the ReliefFactor.com studios.